PlayStation believes in great games.
PlayStation.
Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you are well. Welcome to episode 25 of Cross Button VR, a beginner's journey into PSVR2, a show for those who want to share in our newcomers' enthusiasm for the world of VR. Now, I'm your host Laurie, but for anyone that may have forgotten, I just want to remind you that we are part of the Cross Players. So if you find yourself enjoying what you hear, check out thecrossplayers.com for links to all of our content and our Discord. Now, it is an honour to be joined by two of what must surely be the most hopelessly romantic influencers in the metaverse. It's Ben and Alex. Hi there, gents.
So romantic. It's our 25 episode anniversary.
And
That's
the
romantic.
I mean, you probably are the most romantic. It's probably not a high bar in the in terms of metaverse influencers.
No,
probably not.
True. It's a reclusive and solitary pursuit, isn't it?
You do strike me, Ben, as the sort of person that would, in the past, maybe has done a grand romantic gesture. Can you think of anything off the top of your head you want to share with the listeners?
I mean, I've married two women.
How romantic that whole arc is, but
Not at the same time. That would be weird. Yeah.
And illegal.
So it's at least two proposal stories you've got, though. So
Yeah, exactly.
At least one of them's a little bit romantic, but maybe not. Maybe I've overestimated you.
Third time's the charm.
Good.
I'm hoping out hope, Ben.
Yeah, Alex, you probably are quite romantic as well. I think.
Probably not. Maybe in the olden days, like in the early courting days, but I'm well over that now.
Do you find
Now it is an honour to be joined by two of
get
what
in the
must
way.
be surely the least romantic influencers in the metaverse. It's Ben and Alex. There we go. Just rewrite that.
Well, we are all old men.
Well, speak for yourself.
Well, I'm the youngest.
Oh yeah. How old are you?
Just younger than you.
How old am I?
just slightly younger than me?
Good. Well, we've got a lot of news to discuss today. Lots on the agenda. We're going to talk about what we've been playing, and then there's been a bit of a topic this week we're just going to pick up, which hopefully is not going to be too tedious for us, because it's been the big topic of conversation this week on Twitter. So we'll be discussing whether PSVR2 has no games, or does it have any games? I don't know. I thought it did, but apparently it doesn't have any games. So we'll be mulling over that those takes. But first, the news. What's up first then? So I'm going to talk about Glassbreakers. If I say Glassbreakers, again, more mad VR game names. Glassbreakers Champions of Moss, which is going to be the follow-up game to Moss and Moss 2. And it's a competitive multiplayer game, unfortunately, which is sort of like, you think, they're making a follow-up to Moss. Brilliant. It's a competitive multiplayer in a kind of shared universe type live service thing. And you just instantly, my interest is gone, to be honest. But I mean, it is from the developers of Moss, so I shall be keeping an eye on that. And they're going to be in a full reveal and trailers and stuff on August the 29th. So, yeah, either of you at all caring about that?
A little bit. I'm interested to see how what it actually is. I know they were doing play tests of it just around the time the PSVR2 launched. They did it more in Oculus though, because PSVR2 was just coming out. But I can't envisage what it actually is. So interested to find out more.
Yeah.
No, I'm being sarcastic. I'm interested just because of the developers, who they are, and how good Moss is. I'm always intrigued when someone tries to make a multiplayer game. I think, maybe this will be the one that's actually good. But then it turns out to be like Redfall, where Arcane they have a go at making a competitive multiplayer thing, and you think, I do really like Arcane games, so maybe this will be good. And it never is. But maybe this time will be the one.
Have you ever played Towerfall?
I have not.
From the developers of Celeste, made Towerfall before Celeste. That would be quite cool, like in that kind of Moss world. It's so Towerfall. Just Laurie or anyone else doesn't know what it is. It's like a.
I know what it is. I've just not played it.
Oh, okay, fine.
How
For
dare you
anyone
imply
else,
I don't know what it is?
Damn you. I know everything. It's like a little single screen arena like fighter, basically, kind of like a Smash Brothers, but much more simplified. But I can imagine like Moss, I don't know, something like that. And you're pulling around the environment, pulling out little platforms, pushing them in so your opponents fall down. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I remain optimistic.
Well, you don't have long to find out what Glassbreakers is all about. Again, such a strange name. Right, next up on the news then, Ben, this is going to be probably your most hyped game because, once again, Pistol Whip is having some new content coming, some new updates around the future. And I know how they're always your update for Pistol Whip counts as your most hyped anything, so you can look forward to that. I think they've got... there was no recent update came just recently.
Yeah, not long ago. Yeah.
That's what it's most hyped.
Yeah, that was it.
Was that the one? Okay. There's not been another one since then.
No.
So there's a new one called Elixir of Madness coming in the autumn this year. And there's another one coming in the new year as well. And I think that's going to be it then. But it's still, it's quite cool that it's still getting lots of ongoing content. It doesn't feel like it's a game that needs it necessarily, but it's great that it is.
It just keeps it fresh, and I think it keeps people coming back to it. Like, I'll be intrigued to dip into these. So, yeah, good on them.
Are these updates free, or are they particularly expensive, or what? What's the deal?
They've been free up to this point.
Really? Amazing.
Yep.
Wow. That's cool. And then they've also said they're working on their next game, which is obviously not too much of a surprise, but I suppose good to know that they are making another game.
Cool. Hopefully it'll be like Towerfall. I don't know if you know what that is.
Of course I know what it is. I've just not played it, Ben.
Yeah. But yeah, Pistol Whip. I really do need to get around to buying that one. Still not.
Do.
You really do.
Still not played it.
This could be the week.
Well, yeah. More on that soon. Okay, next up then, it's the subject of Ben's t-shirt. So you can see, modelling a beautiful t-shirt there. Let's just see it properly. Or Synapse t-shirt. So that's a couple of things on Synapse. First of all, it has topped the PSN download charts. It has finally dethroned Beat Saber, which had been top of the VR charts since like forever. But yeah, Synapse has taken over as the number one best-selling VR game in July, which is not a huge surprise to be honest, but it's good to see that it did get the reception and the it was well received by the audience as well. I know a lot of obviously Sony hyped it up a lot and gave it a big marketing push, and it's good that it's been well received and bought by lots of people. So that's the good.
Yep. And obviously a massive spike when we gave it our number one game.
Yeah,
PSVR2. Massive sales spike caused then, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I've seen a few outlets that have been doing their top lists of games. So it's top 10 or top 15 or top 25 or whatever it is. And I think Synapse is top of a few of them, or certainly in contention in most of them as well. So I think it is quite universally seen as the most kind of strongest contender for killer app outside of GT7 and Resident Evil, perhaps.
But none of those outlets are anywhere near as important as us.
No, you nailed that, didn't you?
Foghorn Leghorn, ladies and gentlemen.
And I wonder if they'll do any. And one of the criticisms of the game is that it's quite short, and that you can, once you've got the hang of it and you've done a few runs, you can get through the whole thing and finish it. And then obviously you have to finish it a couple more times, increasingly more difficult levels, which some people will bother to do, or some people might just think, no, I'll finish it now, I'll walk away. But I wonder if they'll do any DLC or follow-ups or expansions to it. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise. It feels like they should.
I hope so.
Could easy to do.
I hope they don't. Not to be a contrarian, but
go on, then.
Just think,
makes it interesting if you
move on. Like it's a really strong game. It's fine as it is. VR, I don't think you need to make it any longer. When it's a VR game, I think it's a perfect length as it is. Just keep it, move on, take the lessons you've learned, apply it to something completely different.
I think what I would maybe quite like to see, maybe not more content, but more features or more like refining what's there and maybe kind of giving you more options to how you can go in and approach it, or putting leaderboards in there and things like that, because it kind of gives you a score and stuff anyway. So there's maybe bits it can do to add to the experience rather than bringing more content into it. So.
And if they don't do DLC, I hope that there's a Synapse 2 in the works, or at least being thought about, because I feel like Sony could say, right, you've made a very strong not first party, but Sony published flagship game here for VR2. Can you make a sequel and make more of it and just make it bigger, and we'll give you even more of a budget, and we'll give you even more support, and we'll give you access to the PlayStation Studio network to enhance it even more. Just take it up to the next level, just make it even more, because I feel like as an IP it certainly is it's very interesting, and it stands out. Visually it stands out. The story and the setting stands out, and it would be a shame to never go back to it. And I feel like, given the reception that it's had, surely they must be talking to Sony about, like, how can we keep making this, or follow-ups or spin-offs or whatever it might be.
Hopefully.
But one of the things they are doing, in all the other Synapse news, is they've just launched a community speedrun competition, which they must have got the idea from us, really, for VR the Champions, frankly. But yeah, they've just their first community speedrun event. It's throughout August, and it's just the first surface level. I think trying to work, just reading it here, so how much you have to do. But it's basically, you post a screenshot on their Twitter with the end of run completion screen as the proof, and you get a chance to win exclusive signed merch from the team, perhaps a t-shirt much like the one Ben is currently modelling. And there'll be leaderboards. They'll be updating every Wednesday and Friday throughout August. Yeah, and it's the fact they're doing this as kind of post your pictures on Twitter. It's not a very kind of elegant way of doing it, is it? When most of these other games have leaderboards, and you think it can't be that hard to add in a leaderboard update, and then they'll be able to do events like this all the time.
But you don't see that leaderboard on social media, though. So is it maybe more an intelligent way of doing it? If everyone wants to get involved and post their scores up there, everyone's talking about
Alex.
it. Yeah.
Well, maybe we should do our VR the Champions in one of those weeks. We'll do the same. Could do the same level, and we could just, even if we can't win the whole thing, we can see who amongst us can win that one.
Yeah.
And then
not
only could you win the signed merch, you could also win, is it £10 PSN credit? Is that what we still do every week?
It's just for fun at the moment.
Just for fun. Okay. Well, You get the bragging rights in our Discord group, which frankly is worth more than any merch. And I feel like we'll come on to talking about this week's competition and how that went. But I feel like the level of quality that is being achieved in a group just over the 2 weeks that we've done, I'd like to see what our community could do with this speedrun competition with Synapse, because I think we'd definitely be in the contention. If you're half as good at this as you are at Masternoid, Alex, which you're not, but if you were, then...
He's determined, though. He's determined. Alex will sit there and he'll work at it.
A dog with a bone. Okay, enough Synapse chat for now. I'm sure we'll come back to Synapse soon. Next up is Gran Turismo. The movie has come out and it's been reviewed. It's basically a giant advert for Gran Turismo 7. So it seems to be quite mixed review. Some people quite like it, say it's very good. Some people just say it's absolutely shameless product placement for Gran Turismo and PlayStations in general. But yeah, it just struck me as the fact this is coming out. If Sony had any sense, they would be like every Cineworld. They just would have some VR demo stations so people could come out of this and just go straight into the PSVR2 to play GT7 and be like, oh yeah, you like that story, did you? Well, it could be you too. Look, and here's Alex with his home wheel set up and his pedal and his gear stick and his little cage that he's got to put it all in the right place. But yeah, either of you, any interest in seeing the GT Gran Turismo film?
Well, I didn't, and then I realised Jerry Halliwell was in it. I'm like, who doesn't want to go into a film with Gentle Spice in it?
She's on the plane. No
joke for the patrons there.
I'm gonna.
Well, her husband's on it as well for Mark anyway. So.
Oh yeah. I'm taking my two eldest boys to watch it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we're
I feel like
excited.
the people that are reviewing it and say it's a terrible film are kind of missing the point. I think if like Fast and the Furious films are generally terrible, but they get huge audiences because there's a lot of fun just to watch cars go around tracks.
Exactly.
And the cinematography looks, well, from what I see in the trailers, it looks very impressive. The cinematography, the shots they've got, and the filming they've done of the cars going around the tracks and stuff, which is always.
And what's wrong with that? It's just one of those kind of switch your brain off, enjoy the ride, ignore Jerry Halliwell.
Yeah, no, I do quite want to see it. I'm not sure I'll get to the cinema because my cinema trips are rare treats these days, but I should definitely want to watch this at some point. And to coincide with it, and more to the point of why I bring this up, is that it coincides with an update to the game, which is a free update, and you get some, I think it just applies stuff from the film to the game. I think some of the decals and the logos and stuff you can stamp on your car, and the Nissan that he drives in the car is available. You can download that for free. You don't have to use any in-game credit to unlock it. I think you just have to sit for a trailer for the film. If Sony weren't shameless enough with all of this, they make you sit for the trailer and then you can have the car in exchange for doing that.
That's brilliant. Yes, and that does fit in with the aesthetic of GT7 though, doesn't it? Because there's a lot of right now, sit and watch this.
Yeah,
I just want to drive a fast car. Yeah,
I don't know. The GT7 is a fantastic driving experience simulator, and I think if you're into cars and if you go and see this film, it's just such a no-brainer to go out and just buy a PlayStation 5 and GT7 and PSVR2 if you really want to take it to the next level, and all the pedals and shit like Alex has got on the wheel, if you really want to go all in. But yeah,
do it all, do it right.
Yeah, I don't know, in the film you don't imagine you see him in VR, because I can't imagine it works very well in films watching people play on the VR, but I imagine he's just playing.
It would have been great product placement, but I don't know if they're trying to make it like historically accurate, whether he's playing like an older version of
it's a few years
Gran
ago,
Turismo or. But yeah, you'd think it would have been a great opportunity to flog some VR headsets.
I don't know. I bet he's playing GT7 in the film because they want to show it off as good as it can be. Is there like GT2? It's like, oh man, that looks pretty rough. I'm not sure I need that.
Yeah, no, I assume it's 7, but I will report back once I get to see it.
Let us know. You can review that for us. Final bit of news then. This was breaking news today. We had an update about the brilliantly named Tennis on Court. Has now got a release date of the 20th of October, which is boldly the same date that Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Spider-Man 2 release. So if anyone's not interested in either of those bangers, they can play Tennis on Court instead. And there was a bit more information in the PR release that came with it. So there's going to be arcade modes and then more realistic modes, and there's going to be different court surfaces that apparently you'll be able to feel the difference through it's in the realistic modes. It will use the haptics, eye tracking for the menus. There'll be AI players you can play against, which I think we knew already. You can play singles matches with your friends, doubles matches with your friends, and then finally I liked this idea that it's a spectator mode that you can just watch your friends. I love the idea. I'm just going to get myself a big bowl of strawberries and just watch you two play tennis on court. I'm just going to sit there on my sofa in VR,
just doing that.
Wimbledon live,
just being there clapping away. Very good. Like, come on, Ben.
Yeah.
Virtual umpire like, shh,
quiet, please.
Bald. Yeah, but I mean,
I'm quite looking forward to this. Like, I think this looks really good. Like, I think I like a good tennis game. And when I tweeted this out earlier, a lot of people are looking forward to this. There was a lot of likes, a lot of reposting, like a lot of comments on it saying that people were picking this up.
Because there's no games.
Well, that's it. That is it. You're even getting some nice, and that's it. A lot of people, I do appreciate perp games for this. Like every game they releases physically as well. Now you don't get that many physical releases in VR2, but they at least make a point of releasing them all physically, which a lot of people like as well. Which is a nice touch. I mean, not for me personally, but it's a nice touch.
I'd love to know how many copies they're selling physically of this stuff. So it's like, must be a very small number.
But then if you've got a small range of games physically for when people are buying a headset to put in a bundle or to put in something, then it might actually work out in the long run for them when they actually point of sale perspective.
I'm sure they have their reasons.
They have their reasons. Yeah, well, maybe we should. Well, I said before we should get someone from Perk Games on because they make all the games these days. prolific they are. Good. Right, what have we been playing, Japs? Ben, last week you were telling us all about VR Skater, and since then you have played some more VR Skater. Why don't you tell us what your feelings are? Now you've had a bit more time with the game, and maybe you can get a chance to sum up where you're at with the game.
Yeah, sure. So I've basically got as far as I can with VR Skater. That is to say, kind of work my way through all of the levels, which are great. Like they're kind of, if you've seen any footage of it, it's not flashy to look at, but the levels are sort of functional, presented nicely. I think I've just got too many technical gripes with it that to really recommend it highly. Like when you're actually in motion and skating, that all works brilliantly, and mechanically that feels sound. But let's say you hit into some railings, so it takes you back 5 feet and then starts you again, kind of thing. It doesn't give you enough of a run up to be able to jump over those railings. So you basically have to keep hitting into them until you've hit your 5 times you're allowed to bail, and then the level's ended. There's little things like that which really, really frustrate you when you just want to play the game, and there's a little, you fall in a hole and then it puts you back somewhere where you can't then gain enough momentum to be able to jump over the hole.
So you have to restart the level when that happens.
So you have to restart the level, and it's just a bit like, this is so close to being something I would play to like the point of platinum in it, but it just makes it very kind of frustrating to work your way through it, because you feel like you're fighting against the game a lot, and the controls are complex enough as it is. Like I haven't even got round to properly exploring how to do like manuals or even grinding and stuff like that. But even just doing the very basics, just trying to get from A to B, there's enough stuff that gets in the way that it's just it's not cool. And there's a few little bits that you reach this score to get a bronze medal on one level, and then once you've got that bronze level, it disappears and then tells you that you had to get this score instead. Like, it's just weird stuff like that. It just feels very unfinished. Like, to be fair, Alex and I joined their Discord last week and kind of had a little look around there. They seem to be very responsive to all of this stuff, and that they're very much, trying to get it patched as quickly as possible. But I think it's a 1 or 2 man studio. These things take time, so obviously you've got to give them a bit of leeway for that as well. But at the same time, it's not the it's not up there with the the top 10, 15, 20 games that I've played so far, because unfortunately the great stuff about it is negated by all of these little technical bits and bobs that we kind of touched on last week, but now we've spent more time with it. I don't know if Alex, you've had a similar experience as well.
I completely agree. I mean, the bones of this game is very good, and there's so much potential in it, and so much. It's one of those games that if it didn't have those niggles you would really want to master it. It has enough of a pull to be like, I want to get really good at this. I want to land that jump. I want to get that combo. I want to see how high a score I can get on this level. I want to chase that leaderboard. But it's like when you then, like, there's some levels where you've got like containers. You can fall between the containers and it just starts you again between the container, but you're literally like about 3 centimetres away from the container. And I'm like, right, where am I supposed to go here? Like, I know you can lift the board and move for some things, but that doesn't work on some. And then you just then, whereas you're in the zone and you're kind of immersed in it, then you just get like, right, but you totally lose that immersion because you're more like, right, what the fuck? And it is a shame. But I completely agree with Ben. Like, it's just not there for me to want to spend the time in it, because I know I'm just going to come into something and get another bug, or I'm going to... Because I'm getting to the stage where I'm like, am I just rubbish at this, or is it a bug? Because there is that bug where it pulls you to the right a little bit, and they are fixing that, but it does... It is almost like...
Is that what we spoke about last week, about in the tutorial where it puts you slightly to the right? Yeah. So
it does pull, which doesn't help.
Right. That's what I mean. Fighting against the game. Literally fighting against it. Yeah.
It's a shame because as a good, I mean, like as a good game, like there's no denying that. And I think once they fix all these bugs, there would be a really good game there. But it's just a shame that it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's funny because I've seen a few reviews and that really mentioning that there are these technical issues with it. It seems to be quite well reviewed elsewhere, quite highly regarded.
Yeah, I was reading Push Square's review of it, and it was all completely positive. I think they gave it a 7 out of 10. Which, if it didn't have these issues, I would happily say 7 or 8. But it is odd that you can't turn a blind eye to it because it does ruin so much of the fun that is clearly there. So it's odd that some reviews just aren't mentioning it at all. I don't think Alex and I are particularly fussy or perfectionists when it comes to games. Like, we'll beat our head against a brick wall trying to get a good score on something for hours. But when the game pushes against you doing that, it's something else entirely. But I hope they fix it, and I would certainly like to come back to it and get a few more trophies and spend a bit more time with it, definitely.
Okay. Well, in terms of other things that I've finished playing, there's the Room VR, which I finished this week. Just echo what we've already previously said. Absolutely loved it. Loved how it all ended, and as you both mentioned, it just ends just at the right time. I hope they make more of it. I'd love to keep playing. I'd like to play one, I think, if it had more of a stronger, kind of more coherent story. That's my only kind of thing. It's all a bit. I mean, it's not really the point of the game, is it? The story is just an excuse to look through the different rooms. It doesn't really make much sense. It's not particularly compelling. But if you married that exact gameplay, but with a more compelling story and mystery that you're actually solving, rather than just the gameplay being solving the puzzles, but if there was actually a bigger picture story that you were playing towards, that would be make it the perfect game for me, I think. But yeah, strongly recommend that one.
Here. That's 3 thumbs up. 6 thumbs up.
Thank you. And then Alex, can you please tell us, because I've been seeing on I actually love our Discord now, at a point where I think was it you or was it Phil too that just piped up one evening and said, anyone fancy a round of golf?
Yeah, it was Phil. So I think it was one night earlier in the week, said a little walkabout minigolf date with Phil too. We had a nice little night, 3 courses we played.
But I mean, it was like 7 o'clock, I think. And you replied, said, yeah, okay. And then like 3 hours later, at 10 o'clock, you both piped up again, just like, well, that was fun. And it was just like bantering about. And it's just like, I don't know, I just love that we've got this kind of medium now. We've created this kind of community that, in this, with Discord, that anyone can just pipe up and be like, yeah, all right, go on then. And you've just got 3 hours there of just going around the golf course with someone. And because that's such a perfect game, because you can be playing the game, but you can just be kind of chatting and just like having fun and like larking about at the same time. It's not a serious game at all that you have to like really focus on as such. You can spend just so much time sort of looking for the golf balls or flying about or just being silly in it.
Yeah. I mean, you can be a lazy bastard like Phil as well and just sit down in between holes. I'm like, come on, stop sitting down. I'm like if you sit down and stand back up, I'm like, don't be so lazy. But you're like, yeah. But it was good. I mean, Phil has many issues with moving parts.
Which feels like many issues.
Maybe. We'll let him answer that one. But
with moving parts
in the courses. So, like,
okay.
I don't know if you played. So we played Shangri-La, we played El Dorado, and we played, remember the one, Ben, that me and you tried to play with the windmills?
Yeah.
And so we played those 3. And in El Dorado, there's one that's like big statues of like monkeys and stuff, but one of them's like its hands move up and you need to time it to get the ball in its hand, and then it lifts it up and puts it down and rolls down, and so he exceeded his shot limit on that because it moved. There was then another thing where you had to time something and it moved, and it exceeded his shot limit in that. So I think the first 2 rounds I think I beat him by over 20 strokes.
Bloody hell.
Which is, and then in the last one he was about 3 ahead of me with 4 holes to go, and then I won by 2. It's like cracked under the pressure, so it was a bit of a whitewash.
Yeah, and you always say you're not very good at games, but yeah, you seem to be quite good in games.
Me think
I
the
seem to
lady
be
doth
quite good
protest
at
too much.
No, I'm not good at actual games. VR games I seem to like be not bad at. I think I've found my calling in life. It was VR. It was to be in a virtual world and not the real one.
Are you good at mini golf in real life? That's the question there.
No, probably not. I couldn't tell you the last time I played mini golf, but from memory, no, not very.
I wonder if you'd be better now, though.
Maybe.
Now you've had all this practice.
Maybe. Might need to go and try that.
Next time we meet up in person, we should do that.
Go and find a mini golf course in London.
I was just going to say, do they have one at EGX? Maybe.
Oh, they won't have one at EGX, but sure we could find one.
Yeah, it's not long now as well. The Walkabout Minigolf's got that mobile companion app, or just mobile version of the game, which sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Okay, well, I think let's move on and we'll talk about our main topic. But before we get to that point, I just wanted to let everyone know that if they'd like to support us, they can give this podcast a sub on the service they're using, and they can leave us a review too. They can follow us on Twitter at @CrossbuttonVR and at the Crossplayers. And if they really want to show their love, you can do so via patreon.com/thecrossplayers. And for £2 a month, you can help us produce the show and get entry into our lovely little WhatsApp group. Now, we've talked about it or mentioned it a couple of times already, but it would be great if Alex and Ben, you could just sum up what has been going on this week in VR The Champions. What's been going on there? Because there's been a competition this week to see who can get the best score on the second level of Thumper. Once again, the standards have been outstanding. So can you just tell us what's been going on there, please?
You, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, we started off so it was Phil's choice this week. Phil won. So he picked Thumper and he set the standards quite quickly, didn't he? So he was up there at the beginning, and then Stored Bart came in and blew us all out of the water. And then Ben and Lewis ended up in the exact same score at one point, which was bizarre. Absolutely bizarre at the beginning.
Did we?
You and Lewis had the exact same score at the beginning.
I never noticed.
You must have missed that. Yeah. And then we all started to get a little bit better. It's like we all tried. Phil was very helpful in telling us how to play the game. He was like, he's not really understanding this competitiveness thing. Like, don't help each other. Like, come on. But Stored Bart was well out in the lead until the last evening, and Phil absolutely smashed it. So Phil won this week. So well done to Phil. Stored Bart was second, and I was third. So,
and I was fourth, but I don't get any points for that.
You got a point last week.
Lewis was sixth. Bottom. Just bottom. That's the main thing.
I didn't realise
it's not about that.
I didn't realise at first before this week that you're actually scoring everyone each week, and it's kind of like a ranking system that's been when's the season going to end?
When we feel like it.
Just when you feel like it. Yeah. I'm assuming a level of planning's going into this there.
That's ridiculous, Laurie. What a stupid assumption.
What's the prize, Ben? What's the prize going to be? What's the trophy?
What's the next segment?
No.
Let's move on.
But seriously, do you feel like doing this as you've both kind of developed a new appreciation or sort of level of skill for the game?
Yeah.
For Thumper.
Like, I'm sure I said this in Discord, and like, it's been great doing this challenge just to go back to trying and playing Thumper, because I played it a bit towards launch, and I probably haven't played it since then, and I'm quite fairly through. I haven't finished the game, but I'm fairly well through it. And I'm a bit like, you just really appreciate it for what it is, and see when you're trying to perfect a level like that and you're working out, and it does make you want to properly learn everything that you need to do and all the bits and mechanics, and fully appreciate it. So it's been great. Come back to that this week.
Yeah, because if you're playing for a game, normally you just get through the game and you're not pay too much attention. Well, I don't really pay too much attention to the score you're getting. As long as you get through the level, job done. But then when you see someone else post a score, and a lot of the stuff, because you two always pop up on my leaderboards just with like the friends are playing the same stuff, and I think, okay, I've got through the level, and then I see the scores you've done, and I'm like, how the fuck? GT7, those lessons and stuff. I can get the gold, and then I'm like, oh God, I'm 0.1 of a second off Alex's and 0.3 of a second off Ben. I'm going to keep going now until I do it. Yeah. And so it kind of it makes you even better at the game, because you get the gold and you just keep going and keep going and keep going. Okay, now I've really got I've really nailed this challenge.
Yeah, no, it's been really good for that. Like, just I've never really cared about getting S ranks on anything, but then just going through this, like, okay, so this is how you do it. This is actually how you get a good score, and realizing the mechanics behind it rather than just get through this level. Oh, good, I haven't messed up. Brilliant. Just makes you it makes you good at the game,
Yeah.
which is something I've never really bothered with before. So yeah, cool, great game.
Good. Sorry, you gonna say anything there?
I was going to say next up is Pixel Whipped. No, it's not. It's Pistol Whip. So
Pixel whipped. Pixel whipped or pistol whipped? Pistol whipped.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of fun to be had in that game. One of our favourites. So looking forward to that over the next couple of weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to join in on that, obviously check out the Discord and you can find out all about it there. Okay, main topic of the week then. There's been a bit of controversy on this week. I'm going to read you a tweet from an IGN editor, Ryan McCaffrey, who I've actually got quite a lot of time for. I think he's mainly an Xbox person, but doesn't seem too much of a complete fanboy. But his tweet, he tweeted out a picture of his PSVR2 headset and said, "I massively regret the $597, including tax, that I spent on PSVR2. I love great VR game experiences, and I was so excited that Sony was doubling down with a truly powerful second-gen headset, but they burned me. There are no games. It already feels dead. Look at the layer of dust!" Exclamation mark. It's like, oh my god, look how dirty my house is. And that got quite a lot of attention and quite a lot of quote tweets and replies and comments. And it's almost like he knew what he was doing with that level of engagement. Could be cynical there to think that, but it seemed to spark off a debate all week on Twitter. Are there any games?
No,
there are no games. There's not a single game on.
He's right.
PSVR2.
He's right. Yeah, let's just end the podcast now.
We've been talking about nothing for 25 weeks.
Let's all grow silly little beards and start an Xbox podcast.
Well, we've got the silly little beards bit, but now tick that box. I think we all think this is a very silly take on the basis that every week we fill it with stuff and we're always talking about new releases that are coming out and games that we've been playing. But it's more, I just thought it'd be worth trying to unpack, like, where is this, why are people, because it's quite a common view that PS2 is dead, there are no games on it. And by which people say there are no games. Obviously there are loads of games and they know that, but do they just mean there's no AAA killer app games that they're interested in looking at, or they're, well, what is it? Why are they ignoring the fact that there are games? And what do they mean by this?
Go
on, Alex.
I think it is what you say. I think when they mean there's no games, I think they mean there's no exclusives, and even that's not true because there are plenty of exclusives, but there's no first-party exclusives other than the ones we've been talking about from the beginning. And I think it's this whole thing of where's Sony's support, where they're not, they put this thing out to die. There's no way you can argue this game has no games. This headset has no games. Like, it's probably undoubtedly one of the strongest lineups of a new piece of hardware that there's maybe ever been. When you look at all the games that have been available, how quickly they've been available, the quality of what's been available, and the technology that's in it to enhance the games that have been put on it. So even if you're talking about ports of games that have been brought over to this headset, they have been the best versions of those games that have been available in most cases. But no, you go.
I think yes, but from a so he's in IGN world, a fairly blinkered view of the games industry, where they're incentivized to cover games that will get them the most clicks, anything that will get them the most ad revenue on their site. That's how they survive. They may not be aware of any of the smaller stuff that we cover, that we can cover and have to cover, because it's just not part of their world. Like, to him, there are no games, because in the IGN kind of scope, there aren't any games. We haven't covered any games on IGN, therefore the games don't exist. It's kind of that sort of thing, which is unfortunate, but that's, until there is a God of War PSVR2 exclusive, this is going to keep cropping up, because there's kind of niche stuff that we cover. Sales numbers, although they've been completely respectable for PSVR2, I don't think they're not at the point where someone's going to look at it and go, well, we have to give this headset some coverage because look, it's sold 8 million units in its first 6 months. It's just not. If it was getting clicks and people were coming to the site to look at PSVR2 stuff and searching for it, we'd be getting loads more PSVR2 coverage on IGN and the likes. But
would they be paying someone to review all the games? And because
exactly,
most of the games they don't review at all. Right?
No. And I am a fan of his as well. Like I like the Xbox podcast that he does on IGN. He seems like a really, great bloke and a professional, and he's been in this industry for a long time. But at the same time, I listen to him, and all he's been interested in playing is Diablo 4 and Starfield, and he's come out and said that repeatedly throughout the year. That's all he's interested in. So how the hell is he going to find out about some obscure little indie game on a peripheral that he bought and for GT7? Like, it's just not going to happen. It's not even in his worldview. So.
No.
I can't believe. Well, I mean, a lot of people must have just had the money to burn, but to spend, it's not a cheap thing. Like, I bought it knowing full well that it was going to be mainly these kind of strange, unusual, Last Clockwinder-esque type games that, and the vast majority of those were going to be ports from Quest. And if you don't want that, and some people have been like arguing me the point on Twitter, and I'm just replying to them and say, well, I just don't get one then. If you're not interested in those sorts of games, you're not going to want a PSVR2. They're not cheap. Don't buy one. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't work for Sony. Just don't get one. If you want to play these really interesting, different, unique games that are unlike anything you play elsewhere, they're there. Then they're there in huge numbers. But if you do just want to play games that are like the games that you recognise and know, and I think a lot of people just look at PSVR and think literally the only games for it are Horizon, GT7 and Resident Evil and maybe Beat Saber, because that's the one VR game that they've heard of. And beyond that, they think, well, there isn't really anything that's worth me giving any attention to. Or they equate that a lot of the stuff, they just, because they don't recognise what it is, they equate it to the same shovelware that you see on the PSN for the normal non-VR games, where there is just loads of just crap out there. It isn't worth playing. And I don't know, like, I haven't played anything that's, I'm trying to think of anything that's in the library that is genuinely awful, or that is just shovelware that's just been put out there. I think some people probably say break stuff maybe, although Alex, you seem to have a fondness for that. I'm trying to think of games which are just there. Like you go sorts of games, that filler stuff you get, that shovelware, just the sort of easy platinums on the normal PSN store, games that people buy, like your kind of what's that mayonnaise one, that stupid ones, like, things like that. I have not come across anything like that, and I don't think, looking through the list of stuff, there's a few things that I don't really recognise or I'm not interested in playing. But the majority of stuff I know, and I know it's decent, it's good, and there's a good 10-15 stuff which I think is really excellent. And I've been saying to people, look, if you don't think there's any games, I will recommend you 10 to 15 games. But the games, it's not even been out 6 months. And I think in less than 6 months of the market, to have more than a dozen games, which I can hand on heart recommend to someone, these are worth picking up. And that list may be longer or smaller, depending on your tastes and what you want to rule out or you definitely don't want to play. But certainly I could recommend at least a dozen things that I think these are things that are worth your time and worth picking up. And I think most people would have a good time with. And for a new system on the market, I think that's fantastic.
Yep. But look, it's the same that happened when the Switch first came out all those years ago. There was the whole first year or two where this whole Switch has no games thing was like a meme. Whereas those of us that owned a Switch and actually explored the library and tried different things were like, well, obviously this is hilarious. But there was this kind of perception that, okay, you got Breath of the Wild, what else? Like, why would I get that? And it's like, well, if you kept abreast of what was going on, you would know that there's loads of smaller games that are coming out, AA games, AAA games from other publishers, but people just want it. It's not going to change. This perception is not going to change until there's like 5 or 6, let's say, massive first-party Sony games, and I don't know if that day will ever come. But in which case, the perception is never going to change, unfortunately.
Certainly not in the form that people want. Like, I don't think you're going to get a God of War game. I think you might get first-party stuff like your Astros and your whatever some of the other studios, and whether PlayStation end up buying another VR studio, which I don't think is outside the realms of possibility. I don't think you're going to get, unless you're just going to get one of these other studios that's building a VR game that's skinned to one of the IPs, which kind of calling them out and is, really, because it's a climbing game with a little bit of fighting that's in the Horizon world. And it's whether you see, but there's better versions of games like that in the other games that we've played.
But I'd love to get him on this show. Like I replied, obviously he's not going to pay any attention to me, but I replied with a clip of us bigging him up on our first show, because both Laurie and I both said that was a big part of the reason for wanting to get it in the first place, or at least sealing the deal for Laurie, at least, was him saying how great GT7 was in VR. So I'd love to get him on the show and just not come across as like crazy VR evangelists that are like, no, this is amazing, it's going to blow your mind, this is the future, but just be like, give a balanced take and try and get his balanced response to it, because it's, he's a sensible guy as far as I can tell. I'm sure he'd be able to have a reasonable debate with us about where he's actually coming from. And when he says no games, are you fishing for this? Because this is happening right now, and this happened on Twitter. Let's be honest, like, at least one amongst us has fished for some sort of controversy on Twitter now and again. Sorry. But yeah, it'd be great to have him on. God knows if that ever happened, but if anyone's listening, wants to get him on, tweet him, tell him to come on. I know Phil did that last week. Thank you, Phil. But yeah.
I mean, and I think ultimately the issue is he's just not played Masteroid.
That's it. That's the key.
That is genuinely the issue.
And Astra Masteroid kind of reminds me of like Resogun in terms of like the early PS4, wasn't it? PS4 lineup. Is that there are these kind of smaller games which a lot of people just like, well, that's not the sort of. I'll just discounting that as a game I'm interested in playing because it doesn't look like a big budget AAA game, so therefore I'm not interested in it. And again, I think at this point in where VR is, if you're just going to discount all these essentially sort of VR versions of indie games, then just it's not for you. I think it's never going to be that. Like, you might get one or two tentpole first party releases, and let's hope Sony do. I made the point on Twitter that it's not just PSVR2 that Sony's just not got any kind of roadmap of future content on. It's pretty much PS5 as well. We know we've got Spider-Man 2 and we know we've got Wolverine, but there's some other games that we know that are going to be exclusives, but none of them are first party, I think. So in terms of what the PlayStation studios are doing on PS5, we know very, very little, next to nothing about. So I think we will get Astrobots and we will get stuff like Blood and Truth, and I think that's what people just want to see, like when there's the Blood and Truth equivalent from I think London studio, when there's Astrobot, when there's stuff like when Iron Man came out and that was an exclusive on PSVR2. It's just these big kind of IP releases that people recognise. I think that's what people expect Sony to bring to the table. As to reasons why, and I guess that is Sony's problem to fix, and that is a valid. Well, I'm not saying it's valid, but that if people are thinking that, then it's something that they're going to have to deal with. And I think if they are making those games, then I don't know why they're not. There's obviously a reason why they're not talking about their future content too much, and hopefully they will start to do so soon. Good. Well, any other final thoughts on that before we wrap up, chaps?
No.
All right. Well, I think as you say, I'd love to get Ryan on. I'd love to chat to him because he's a sensible bloke. It makes a lot of sense. So we'll see if he's interested in explaining those comments and why he's not looking at some of these games. But until then, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could please tell your family and friends all about us. And if you'd like to get more involved with what we do, please don't hesitate to drop into our Discord and say hello. And thank you once again to everyone that's already done so. Thank you once again to all of our patrons for supporting the work we do. I've been your host, Laurie. These two have been Ben and Alex, and we will see you again next time. Until then, it's goodbye.